Hey, I'm Randy, and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we talk about high-value, hi-fi home theater and headphone equipment. And today, we're talking about the three-way Wharfedale Lintons. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about the Wharfedale Lintons. Today's sponsor is the Weem Mini Streamer. Whether you want to build a whole home distributed audio system or just dip your toe into streaming, the Weem Mini has you covered. With Apple AirPlay 2, Bluetooth, Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect, and a free customized application to bring in your own networked music, as well as every major streaming platform. The Weem Mini Streamer is available from Amazon and the Weem website. Links are in the description and the pinned comment. A real sponsor. Fancy that. So here's the Wharfedale Lintons, okay? I know you can't really see them, so I took some pictures. So this is what they look like. And this is what they look like. And this is what they look like. They're a handsome speaker. They're a three-way design. They have an 8-inch Kevlar woofer, a 5-inch woven Kevlar midrange, and a 1-inch woven textile soft dome tweeter. They have a rated frequency response of 40 up to 20,000 hertz. Rated at 90 dB sensitive, and have a nominal impedance of 6 ohms. They also come with some very nice binding posts on the back, next to a very cool Wharfedale sticker. I know it's on the back, right? No one's going to be able to see it, but it's cool. And it has 2 ports in the rear, one on either side of the binding posts. The exterior is a real wood, not a fake wood veneer, a real wood veneer. These are black oak, and they also come in mahogany. The price, okay? Be careful, maybe a trigger alert time. Price per pair, they're $1,500 for the speakers. However, you can also get the stands, and the stands are, well, really nice, and they're really heavy duty. Come with spikes or come with some feet. The stands and the speakers together put you in at $1,800. And for $300, I think it is well worth the extra money to get the stands because they're really built for the speaker, and they really look seamless. And they're about the perfect size to put some vinyl records underneath. I was super excited to get these in because there has been a lot of videos on the Model 5s by KLH, Klipsch, Heresy. Heck, even I did a Klipsch Heresy video. A lot of the JBLs, the throwbacks, the new Magnat speakers. There's a lot of speakers that have that throwback vibe to the 80s and 90s. A little bit bigger speakers, wider front baffle, drivers that are spaced out a little bit more. The stuff that I grew up with. This speaker would not have looked out of place in 1996, 95. All right, the exterior here has kind of a front baffle that's recessed in at 45-degree angles and just looks gorgeous. It's very well done. I really like how this thing looks and feels. The grill sticks on there, okay, on some posts, and it's actually quite hard to get off. I thought I was going to break it. I didn't want to break it. I had to pull out my pocket knife. And don't worry, Wharfedale, I didn't cut anything. I just had to get a little bit of a wedge in there to pop it out because this fits in quite nicely into the recesses of the front baffle. Gorgeous speakers. Gorgeous speakers. Beautiful. Wonderfully built. They feel awesome. Hold on, let's do the woofer tap. Probably can't see it. That's okay. Yep, there we go. Soundstage and Imaging. Okay, up here in this room, Soundstage and Imaging can be a bit tough because my left speaker is kind of right in the middle of a corner of the room. So it can really beam out a lot of sound. So I can't always get a great seamless soundstage and great seamless imaging. However, when I pulled these out from the wall about 3 foot, I was able to dial in the soundstage and imaging just perfectly. And when I got them a little bit closer, about 18 inches, and I played around with the toe in, I got them soundstaging and imaging perfectly as well. So the takeaway with that is, even in different rooms, even with different distances from the back wall, one can still get these to soundstage and image very well. S&M 2 by Metallica. 1. Great album. If you haven't heard that album, I would go out and get it, or not get it, maybe dial it up on your favorite streaming service and listen to it because it's fantastic. At the beginning of that song, there is a snare drum. That snare drum is coming towards the left and a little bit behind the speaker. Then there's some timpani drums that are coming kind of in the middle towards the right. And you could really hear the different layers because they were in different levels forward and aft. So the snare drum felt a little bit closer, but to the left. The timpani, I can't even say it, a little bit further back than the snare drum. So the depth of the soundstage here is really remarkable. Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool, another great track for Soundstage and Imaging. There's some drums that kind of go back and forth between the speakers, and then there's a whole bunch of bells that kind of just come all around you. Again, the difference here is this was not a wall of sound that was moving perfectly right to left. This was sound depth in different places that was moving back and forth seamlessly. This is like a Dolby Atmos experience with sounds being placed in space around you, and it's addictive and amazing. With Chocolate Chip Trip, the bells and the chimes are a little bit in front of the drums as they went back and forth. It was so much more complex than other speakers and so much more definitive. It's like Dolby Atmos. It's just placing things in space. Let's talk about bass. So with the bass rating down to 40 hertz, that's pretty much what I heard. Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys wasn't super far extended, but I could still tell that it was going down, or at least trying to go down to the basement. The bass is not just in your face like a giant that picks you up and is slapping you around because you stole its cheese. The giant monster's cheese. So the bass is not like super intense as far as amount, but the texture, the detail, the resolution, pretty impressive, especially with percussion and bass drums. I was doing some emails and listening to Chocolate Chip Trip for like the 7th time, and the toms in the background, something like that. It was so good, it snapped me out of what I was doing, and I just had to pay attention. Bass drums and percussion, really impactful. Rooster, Alice in Chains off the MTV Unplugged. The initial 10 seconds of that song there's a lot of, bass, and it was syrupy, caramel, but never too much that it really was like intruding upon the mid-range. It was just very well done, very inviting, maybe just a bit more buttery than some speakers, but I sure liked it. Narcissistic Cannibal by Korn, at the 1 minute mark, it goes really, really, really low. And these speakers just couldn't do it. Now, if you get them closer to the back wall, you may get more boundary reinforcement and room gain from it. But I didn't really want to mess around with the soundstage once I got it dialed in, so I didn't want to slam these right against the wall. You may be able to eke a little bit more bass out of these if you get them very close to the wall. Let's talk about mid-range. Midrange, Lena Hall, her cover of Creep. Her voice is pretty awesome. However, here there's not a huge amount of microscopic detail on display. Her voice is almost a bit smooth. You can still hear the vibrato in her voice. It's not veiled. It's just not as completely detailed as some other speakers can be. But because it's not so crystal clear, there's a bit of a smoothness to it. And at the 2 minute and 20 second mark, if a speaker has any issues with being too forward in that upper mid-range area, it can be just like nails on a chalkboard. The Lintons just handled the 2 minute and 20 second point on Creep by Lena Hall perfectly. There was no harshness. Speakers can kind of make you go, or headphones can too at that point. Can just make you kind of want to sink away. There's enough detail in here, but also enough smoothness that vocals sound realistic, but they also don't sound harsh at all. And I think if you would A/B this with maybe something that has a AMT tweeter or even a titanium dome or aluminum dome tweeter, you're going to be able to tell a difference. But after a few songs, if you're just listening to this, I don't think anybody is going to be like, oh man, I wish these had more detail. There Will Be Time by Mumford & Sons and Baba Mal. His voice at the beginning was, I don't know like if I've heard better. I've heard maybe something that has a little bit more baritone texture to it. I've heard things that are definitely more detailed. But as far as just the entire package, from a tone standpoint, it's really flawless. This speaker is completely devoid of any sibilance or harshness in the upper mid-range. I had this hooked up to the Akatika pre and power amp and the Denafreps Aries 2. So that is basically what I will call my reference system. However, I did also try it with some more affordable Class D amplifiers like the IEMA D03. There was no sibilance there. Some amps, if they're very harsh or maybe thin in the bass, may push this into sibilance, but there wasn't anything that I hooked it up that would make this speaker sound sibilant. The mid-range here is completely balanced, just enough detail to keep me happy, just enough body to keep me happy. Tonally, it is very accurate with voices. Very, very good. Lena Hall, I knew she wasn't like in the room because you can pick out like certain details when you hear voices, but the presence that her voice had, and she was a little bit behind the speakers, someone could have fooled me. There she is. There she is back there. So not quite detailed enough to be like in the room present, but realistic enough, tonally accurate enough that it seems like maybe she's in the room. I don't know if that makes any sense. Let's talk about treble. Treble here is similar to the mid-range as far as detail. It is not a detail monster, but tonally it's perfect. Cymbals sound perfect. Maybe lack a little bit of that hanging in the air type of a sound. Maybe lack that airy presentation, because these are only rated up to 20,000 hertz. And I know when I say only up to 20,000 hertz, a lot of speakers are rated to 35,000, 40,000 hertz. Sometimes that means that there can be a little bit more sense of space and air. Even though these are only rated up to 20,000 hertz, I still heard space and expanse. It just wasn't in the decay of the cymbals. Just didn't hang out a super long time. But it doesn't mean that cymbals didn't sound like cymbals. They did. No harshness, no tinniness. There's just enough to feel like it's not missing. Again, if you're A-Bing this with a speaker that has more emphasis in the treble, you're going to hear it. But if you just listen to this for a while, a couple of songs, it quits occurring to you that, oh, this speaker isn't sparkly enough. Not saying this isn't sparkly. It's just so balanced and so in line with the rest of the frequency response that it doesn't feel emphasized at all. But tone is so darn good on vocals and cymbals. It is a truly kind of in-the-room experience, but it just lacks that last little bit of detail that it would be like, hey, I'm at a jazz concert club performance. What are my final thoughts? Final thoughts are, man, this speaker's good. I mean, it's very smooth. The presentation, the tone of this speaker is one of the more accurate presentations that I've heard. Things just sound like they should sound, like pianos or cymbals or voices especially, just remarkable. The other thing that's remarkable about this speaker is its ability to place things in space. Its ability to divide the back end of the soundstage into different levels and put musicians and things at different levels. The immersive experience of this speaker is truly amazing. It reminds me a little bit of the debut reference from ELAC. It's just better with soundstage, way better mid-range with voices, way higher soundstage. This speaker is taking a performance and making it, reproducing it to a really believable level in my room. And we're starting to step up here in price. $1,500. I mean, really $1,800 if you're getting the stands. So that's almost $2,000. However, that's cheaper than the KLH Model 5s. That's cheaper than the Klipsch Heresies. That is slightly more expensive than the Wharfedale Evo 4.2s. I think these are both great speakers. The Evo 4.2s, fantastic speaker, a little bit more fickle with placement, height, how you get them dialed in. The Lintons are a little bit easier. You can put them up, and yes, you need to mess around with their tone and things like that. But I was able to get them into a sweet spot way quicker than the Evo 4.2s. I think the Evo 4.2s have a little bit more detail, and I think their tone is pretty good too. But if it's me, I am getting the Lintons over the Evo 4.2s. I think they're both outstanding speakers, but this one is more to my preference. It's laid back enough that you can just listen to it for a long, long time, but it's detailed enough. And the thing that's really special about this speaker is just how realistic drums, percussion sound, voices are remarkably realistic. And I don't necessarily think it has to do with, yes, the tone is very good. The tone is very accurate. But the way that they put things in space, it feels like there's somebody behind your TV or behind the wall that's singing to you. And combining that with the great tonal characteristics of the speaker and the great sound staging characteristics of the speaker just is an immersive experience that I just can't get over. This I am going to be emailing folks over at Wharfedale, see if I can buy this, because I love it. I love this speaker. It is not going to be the speaker for everybody, especially people that are looking for the last amount of detail. If detail and utter microscopic accuracy of cymbals, if that's your deal, this is probably not the speaker for you. But if you like to just chill out and listen to music and enjoy it and be surprised, getting surprised by the music. Wow, that's really cool. Oh, that's really far back. This is the speaker that's doing it. It makes me want to listen to more tracks in their entirety. I'm not skipping through anything. The drum fill on Give Me One Reason was so realistic. Again, this speaker made me snap myself out of whatever I was doing just to kind of sit back in awe. This speaker is equally as impressive at lower volumes as it is at higher volumes. I'm blown away. I love this thing. May not be for everybody, but if you get a chance to listen to these, I would take advantage of it. If you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also sign up for Amazon Music or Tidal. They're both running deals. You can try them out for free, decide which one is best for you, and sign up. A lot of the links in the description are affiliate links. If you click on them and you buy anything, I do get a commission, but it doesn't cost you any more. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen through your new Wharfedale Lintons and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.